Lamar Odom is one of the most talented basketball players of his time.
Played with the LA Lakers, won 2 championships.
But when his fame reached new heights, so did his struggles with addiction.
I had 12 strokes and 6 heart attacks. That's like extremely humbling.
But little did Lamar know his saving grace would be meeting the woman of his dreams.
Sabrina's one of the strongest people I've ever met in my life.
Meet Sabrina Parr. Sabrina's perseverance through a troubled childhood.
When I was growing up, my mother was struggling heavily with addiction.
And her own struggles with drug dependence.
After the first surgery, I had a pain button that allowed me to request morphine every 15 minutes.
And a prison sentence that changed her life forever.
I pretty much lost everything.
Gave her the strength to be by her man's side during his greatest time of need.
The day that I heard about Kobe's helicopter crash, if I wasn't with Sabrina, there's no doubt in my mind I would have got hot.
As the saying goes, behind every powerful man, there's always a strong woman.
My name is Sabrina Parr, and this is my story.
I'm Melody Holt, and welcome to Behind Every Man, a series that celebrates the stories of strong Black women behind some of the most influential Black men in sports, music, and entertainment. Tonight, we feature the story of Sabrina Sherelle Parr. Sabrina is a hard-working single mom who truly beat the odds of a troubled childhood and incarceration, forcing her to reinvent herself time and time again. But shortly after she was thrust into the public eye as the fiancée of basketball great Lamar Odom, both of their worlds would quickly turn upside down, and he would need her support now more than ever if he was going to survive.
The helicopter flight that ended in tragedy for 9 people, including Kobe Bryant.
The helicopter banked left and abruptly descended.
This was a high-energy impact.
The day that I heard about Kobe's helicopter crash, where I just didn't even know how or what to feel at that time.
He just was very emotional. I was concerned about how he was going to respond to this. I was really afraid if I left Lamar alone, he was going to relapse.
If I wasn't with Sabrina, there's no doubt in my mind I would have got hot.
Because of my experiences of growing up with addiction, when I saw the look in his eyes, that made me very nervous, like, oh my God, what is he about to do? My name is Sabrina Parr. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio on May 1st, 1987. My mom's name is Tracy, and my dad's name is Burrell, but everyone calls him Sonny. I lived in a city called Shaker Heights. It's a very nice suburban area of Cleveland, Ohio. But, I was very different than the other kids in Shaker Heights. Most of those kids came from 2 successful parents, enough money to give them all the things they need, and, that wasn't my story. We had a very chaotic household. I lived with my mom, and my dad was in and out of jail. He would just be here one day, gone the next day, my entire life. My mother was struggling heavily with addiction. And it was quite a struggle, my mom trying to juggle her issues and raise a young child.
Back then, in my addiction, I didn't even look at it as an addiction. I felt like something mentally was wrong. Later, actually joining a 12-step program is when I realized that I had a problem.
It was easy to hide it because my mom was what you call a coping addict. She was able to maintain her job. She had a house in the suburbs. She carries herself very well. And so a lot of people didn't know the issues I was struggling with. So it was really just me and my dog, Rock, and Molly. my doll that was like my comfort and what I held on to every night when I was alone because my mom was struggling with her addiction. At school, they assume you either have food at home to make a lunch or you can afford the school lunch. So there were times where I struggled with both of those choices. And so I quickly got into survival mode. So the way I started creating lunches was taking bits and pieces out of everyone else's lunches and combining my own. I would bring an empty lunchbox, and by lunchtime, it was filled. They were finding out I was stealing their lunch because you compare your lunches to the other students. It wasn't as smart as I thought, but it was my way of fitting in. It was my way of eating that day. I had to find ways to survive. I truly believe my mom was doing the best that she could, but it just was not a livable situation. So one night, I just literally called the police on myself.
I felt kind of like, what did I do wrong? A lot of guilt, like,
I was officially taken from my mom's house by the Shaker Heights Police Department. I started off living with my grandfather. I stayed with my dad for some time, and then I ended up living with my grandmother. I moved from that suburban city to the heart of the ghetto, literally. When I was living with my grandmother, it was 17 of us in her 3-bedroom house. Most of them were my cousins. And there was one room, the whole floor was just mattress. And you just laid down wherever you laid down. If you went to bed the earliest, that's whoever got the best spot. Next to the window to get the breeze, because it'd be hot. But we ate dinner every day, we ate breakfast every day, we ate lunch every day, and my clothes were always washed. My grandmother did an amazing job taking care of everybody in that house.
Growing up, Sabrina was competitive and very athletic. She hung out with the boys, she raced the boys in the street, and she gave them a run for their money.
she used to race everybody on the block. They would be on their bikes, and she would run alongside them. She would beat them.
I remember the moment when I realized how fast I was. I overheard a very close friend of mine talking about this girl named Ashley who was the fastest in the district. And I literally was like, I'll beat Ashley. And I'm like, Sabrina, no one's beat her. Like, she's undefeated. She's been undefeated for 2 years. And I was like, man, I'll smoke Ashley. So I go race Ashley in a 100-meter dash. By 40 meters, she's totally smoked. Totally smoked. And I'm thinking, like, this the fastest girl y'all got? Like, this is the fastest girl in the district? And so in that moment, I discovered, oh, I'm pretty fast. And that is when I started getting the attention of, oh, girl, you should run track, and why don't you come up for the team? So when I discovered track and field, it was what really made me change my life.
First day I put her on the track, I knew we had somebody special then. Not only was she fast, but she also had extreme endurance. And that's very unusual for track and field athletes.
I made it all the way to nationals and ended up finishing 4th in the nation. That following year, got all district, all conference, didn't lose a race. So I realized track was my way out. It was gonna get me out of my situation and change my entire life. Meeting such a celebrity like Lamar Odom was not on my radar. So he looks down and says, hello. And I said, hello.
She probably came into my life at the perfect time, because for a recovering addict, the company that you keep is very important.
When I discovered track and field, it was what really made me change my life. That was in 2006, and as a girl, the issues I was struggling with were very challenging. So meeting such a celebrity like Lamar Odom was not on my radar whatsoever. The day I met Lamar was June 15, 2019 in Atlanta, Georgia. I was hanging out with my girl Tyra. I was ready to go home. She drugged me to another place. I said, okay, let's go. It's super late, super crowded. I can't see the front. I'm not waiting in this line. So I see this big, tall, 6'10" guy, looks like Lamar. And I said, let's go stand next to Lamar. We'll get in with him. And she's like, girl, do you even know him? I said, no, but just come on, it's gonna work. She's like, all right, so grabbed her hand, we make our way through the crowd. I go stand directly next to Lamar. I make sure there's no women. You know, I don't want to be disrespectful. I see he's just with a bunch of guys, and I just stand right next to him. So he looks down and says, hello. And I said, hello. The promoter comes to the front, opens the gate, let us right in. Piece of cake, plan worked. He invited me and Tyra to hang out with him in the section. I said, sure, why not?
I was intrigued by her because everyone was like giving her rhythm like they knew her. I could have swore she was like a celebrity or something like that.
And so I remember him saying like, who are you? And I was like, I'm just Sabrina.
He made sure I was comfortable. Whatever I wanted to drink, he poured it for me. We just had a really good night. He was such a gentleman.
That night, we talked about her being a trainer and then me getting in shape because I've been away from the game and my body wasn't really responding the way I wanted it to. And so I asked her to help me with my training.
So I said, sure, whatever you need, I got you. Just call me whenever you're ready.
She probably came into my life at the perfect time because for a recovering addict, you know, the company that you keep is very important. I was born in Queens, New York. My mother's name was Kathy Mercer, and my father's name was Joseph Odom. My father was a vet, and growing up, he was addicted to heroin. So he couldn't really take care of me, and he was, you know, in and out of my life growing up. And my mother, she passed away when I was 12 years old. She passed away from colon cancer. And the only thing that I knew to do was I just went to the basketball court and just shot the basketball from, I think the sun came up the next day. I think her death instilled that drive, no matter what, that I would make it to the NBA. So after becoming a high school basketball star, I went to the University of Rhode Island. I played 1 year and then was drafted to the LA Clippers. Played 3 years with the LA Clippers, played 1 year with the Miami Heat, then went to play with the LA Lakers, played for 7 years, won 2 world championships, a USA championship gold medal. I won the NBA Sixth Man of the Year award. I had celebrity popularity. And then when I lost huge. I didn't understand the power of drugs and drugs addiction. And I got in way over my head. It's one of the worst mistakes I've ever made because it's kind of unleashed this dragon, but I just didn't realize the effects that drugs can just have you powerless. This is when I was going through a divorce. I made the stupid mistake and I went to a brothel. And I guess when I was there, I guess they poisoned me because I didn't do drugs that night. And that's hard to explain to them. Yeah, right, you're a drug addict. I swear to God's truth, I didn't do drugs that night, even though they found it in my system. And I guess I had 12 strokes and 6 heart attacks. So I was in a coma for I think 3 days. They had told all of my family, you know, to say your final goodbyes. They really just wrote me off that I was gonna die. But through the grace of God, I'm here to tell my story, my truth. I met Sabrina when I did because the Lord will get you through anything. Her strength makes up in all my weak areas in life. It's probably some things that she understands about me more than I understand about myself.
Because of my experiences of growing up with addiction in the household and my own struggles with addiction, I felt like I could show him how to fight back. I love track and field, but I ended up having 4 surgeries on the same knee within 2 years. They gave me a pain button that allowed me to request morphine every hour, every single day. So, you know, I was just creating a monster. A long way before I met Lamar. I realized track was my way out, right? It was my new focus. It was gonna get me out of my situation of growing up with addiction in the household. And I wanted to run track in California. I ended up choosing Cal State Northridge, and they gave me a full ride track scholarship at a Division I college.
Cal State Northridge at the time was amazing. Our girls team was phenomenal. We won every single year.
During my freshman year, spring, I was having a really good season, but then I just started having knee pains and didn't know what they were. And because I'm so strong, I'm just kind of pushing through the pain up until it was preventing me from finishing the practices.
You know, as athletes, we're used to pain, we're used to being tired, but she noticed it when her speed and her stride and everything, it just wasn't the same. When you come from a certain level of performance, but your body won't allow you to perform, that's mentally debilitating because you can't understand why you can't get there, what's happening. So she started to get down on herself.
And I was going to the trainers and it's not really helping me. So it led me to have to sit out the remainder of the season, which was total devastation for me. So the summer of 2006, after my freshman year, I went back to Cleveland. I went to the hospital to get an MRI and just really get my knee examined and found out that I had a torn MCL in my knee. And so they described it as, it's a very simple surgery, arthroscopic, 3 weeks recovery time, you'll be back to normal. Coaches won't even know you had the surgery. If you get it done early June, you know, you'll be good to go August. Definitely did not happen. Total opposite. I ended up having 4 surgeries on the same knee within 2 years. After the first surgery, I'm literally living in this hospital from like December through April of 2007. I'm back home from California, so not in school, not running, I'm not even walking. I don't even have feeling from the waist down because they have a catheter in my back that's controlling my pain meds. And all of my physical therapy is done while I'm numb. And it was an undescribable experience. You know, I don't know who I am. I can't really identify myself.
The injury was very bad. And for a long period of time, she wasn't even able to walk normally. She said, "Coach, I just want to compete. I just want to hear the roar of the crowd again." It was a very, very difficult and dark time.
She was really like down. I mean, not running track, not being in California anymore, kind of coming home to this reality. And mentally, if she wasn't at rock bottom yet, she was on her way.
And by April, I was not better at all. I have gone through a series of tests, nothing worked, and I just wanted out. So they told me the only way to get out of the hospital was to keep the catheter in my back, and we would do some outpatient stuff, and I said, whatever y'all gotta do, just let me out. So all I cared about was getting better. So what the catheter was doing was giving me morphine every hour of the hour, every single day for, at that point, 4 months. And I had a pain button that allowed me to request more morphine every 15 minutes. So, you know, I was just creating a monster and ended up getting addicted to this morphine. I looked up and I was like, I'm not in school. I'm back home from California. I'm too handicapped to work. I don't have a car. I can't run, which is what I've done since as long as I can remember. I literally don't know what else to do with my life. So I did what most of the girls were doing, hanging out and drinking. I wanted to be numb from my reality as much as possible. And the morphine and the alcohol provided that for me. And that became my new life for a while. Months after I was released from the hospital, they're taking the catheter out, and I quickly started withdrawing from the morphine. And it was just like uncontrollable, constant body aches. And if I didn't do something, I would start seizing.
She always used to tell me that she did not want to turn out like her parents when it comes to substances. So that was another depressing part of everything. And she started to realize, like, wow, I really need this. Like, now I see how it feels when people are addicted to something.
And so went to the hospital. They gave me oxycodone to wean me off. That was too strong on my stomach. I went back. They gave me Percocets. That wasn't strong enough for my symptoms, but still made my stomach sick. So at this point, my dad wasn't in jail, so he was actively participating. And my dad said, they're turning you into a drug addict. And if you don't stop now, cold turkey, you're never gonna be able to get off. I'm just so happy my dad was there to help me get through that addiction.
Her dad was like an on and off user. You know, he got it together sometimes, got back on it, got it together, got back on it. So he knew how to help her out.
He said, get rid of all the pills, and I'm gonna teach you how to get through these withdrawals. And in about 2 or 3 weeks, I was totally able to not have to be on anything. I stopped seizing, I stopped having body aches, and I felt very normal again. Once I got free of my addiction, I knew I wanted to go back to school in California. With me losing my scholarship, I was now a walk-on at a community college and nursing my injury. You know, now I'm figuring out ways to rehab myself. In a short time, I was able to be walking, and then when I was walking normally, I started jogging and led to a run, and then before I knew it, I was stronger than ever. But I had to make a decision. I couldn't afford to go to a university. I no longer had a scholarship. So the best decision for me was to return home and to try to figure out what I was gonna do with my life at that point. I auditioned for a position at ESPN Radio, and I was hired on as an intern. I worked my way up because I actually knew sports. You know, sports was my life. And so here and there, I would give my little nuggets, you know, when they allowed me to talk.
She's just a person with a huge personality.
She doesn't care that you've probably been doing radio for 20 years, you know. She's gonna come and let you know her opinions about things. You know, she'll go toe-to-toe with anybody.
I signed myself up for broadcasting school in Ohio called the Ohio Center for Broadcasting, which then led me to an internship at Channel 5 News, sideline reporting for high school football. So like, one thing is linking to the next. And then being around sports talk, what I wanted was for me to stay an active athlete, something I always desired to be.
She wanted to compete again. She said, I want to be able to be Sabrina Parr again.
They started a women's professional arena league, right, all over the country. And they started a team in Cleveland. It was called the Cleveland Crush. So that was perfect for me. I'm like, wait a minute, I can be aggressive and loud and crazy and won't go to jail? Oh, sign me up. You know, like, I get to hit and all of that, wear pads. So tried out, made the team. Had no experience playing football, obviously, besides flag, you know, on the streets. But I very quickly became known as a hard hitter and just competitive. I'm also on the radio, so I get to talk about it on my own show. I had all these things going on. And at that time, I found out I was pregnant. It was with a guy that I had known since high school. And I was totally shocked, not prepared at all.
When she gave birth to Haven, she had a whirlwind of feelings and emotions.
I had, just all these fears. My fears of being a single parent because I was unmarried. My fears of not being a good mom because of my situation growing up. Am I gonna be enough? What if she likes ballet? I don't know anything about being a girly girl. So it just made me into a more focused individual as far as my life plan and creating a family for her. When I returned back to work after my daughter was born, I was working at Lifetime Fitness. I met a man, Tony. Initially, very attracted to him. Everybody loved him. He was athletic, played football. I was like, oh, he's right up my alley.
Being young like that, she was head over heels immediately. And she was so excited for me to meet him.
When she first met Tony, she was happy. And he was very different than what she's dated.
Somewhere during that winter, I was pregnant. After our son Cam was born, Tony wanted to get married. He loves my daughter. Why not? I think a lot of it was not wanting to be a single mom, just wanting to have a different lifestyle that I had growing up.
I remember telling Sabrina flat out, do not marry him. I had just knew off the bat, he's not it.
I knew very early on there were some signs. Red flag, green flags, yellow flags. It was all the flags in the relationship with Tony that I should either stop and turn around or at least slow down. And I ignored all of those signs, all of them. We were constantly fighting. Constantly fighting.
Tony would do really controlling things, and that part was really hard to see.
We got into a domestic dispute, and he pretty much lost it. At first, my relationship with Tony seemed great. I really thought I had the perfect family. We really had the house with the white picket fence, literally. I thought this was it. And that's just not what happened at all. During that time, we were constantly fighting, constantly fighting.
Tony would do really controlling things. When he was upset with her, he would take away her ring, her cell phone, the keys to the car, her purse, just to control her. And that part was really hard to see and to witness.
We were married in November. By March, we were clearly separated. He refused to sign the divorce papers, but he did agree to move out. And I think him knowing my wife is truly done with me, that caused a lot of trauma for him. And I remember coming home from a basketball game one night, going to the bathroom. I come out, he went through my purse, he got my cell phone, he saw text messages between me and other men, and he pretty much lost it. We got into a domestic dispute. At some point, I ended up next to the trophy case, and I just grabbed a track trophy and swung it. He ducked, hit his head, and he just fell. And so I ran. And then not even 5 minutes later, I got pulled over by the police. They filed charges against me for felonious assault. So went to court, went to trial, and I ended up being convicted. I got a total of 1 year, and while I was incarcerated, my car got repossessed, I lost my home, I lost custody of both of my children, and I pretty much lost everything that was really valuable to me. I was pretty depressed. It took me a while to adjust to the idea that I was in jail and he was not. But then I accepted what was happening to my life, and I decided to make the best of it.
Sabrina did what most people don't do. She grew through jail and didn't let it take her down.
I knew that I had to work on some forgiveness. Myself, my husband, my parents. I asked myself, when I leave here, how am I gonna present Sabrina's best self to the world? And I started just talking to the women around me. I think that's when I truly discovered I have a real heart for women, motivating them, encouraging them that, you know, your present situation does not have to be your future. And just started building from the ground up. I created the whole business plan while I was in there for Get Up to Par brand, and it being more than just fitness, like a real statement of just getting your whole life up to par and what that looks like. I want to be the one to get you up, lift you up, and be like, look, I can help you. Let me show you what I did for me.
Before she went to jail, her life had just been so chaotic and so much going on that was the only way she was gonna sit down and really get some real clarity on where she needed to go in life.
So when I got released from jail, I was so excited to see my mom and my Grammy.
When she got out of prison, I just cried, you know, for a long time.
I was able to be with my kids for Mother's Day, so I was so grateful for that. I had no shame, no pride, no ego. I had a plan to build my life back, and that's all that mattered. I started personal training, getting my clients there, and also working out with them to get in shape. Created a new logo, new website. A full year later, that's when I took my first official photo shoot of my before and after. They were like, we didn't know you looked like that. I was like, yeah, I've been hiding underneath these baggy shirts. I really transformed my body, and that really catapulted my new brand. So now I just feel like, you know, I want a bigger brand, I want to build. So everyone kept telling me the fitness industry was really good in Atlanta. So I officially moved to Atlanta spring of 2019.
She became a trainer at my gym, you know, training people, starting her jump rope class, you know, just setting herself up in position to be a trainer here in Atlanta. So the funny story is, we're in the gym, and Sabrina taps me on the shoulder like, oh yeah, Lamar Odom's coming. He just texted me, said he's pulling up. I said, Lamar Odom? She's like, yeah. I'm like, this damn girl.
So after I met Lamar in the club that night, Lamar and I started training, and I didn't know what to expect.
But she kind of was just like, I'm gonna have his ass at that gym, 6 o'clock Monday morning. Sure enough, Monday came, he's in the gym, she's training him.
She's probably one of the best coaches I've ever had. And I've been coached by some great coaches on a professional level. She's extremely motivated, easy on the eyes.
Literally, I had no intention when I was training Lamar that I was getting ready to be involved with him. But there was one night, he was like, do you want to do dinner with me tonight? And I was like, sure. And we had such an amazing dinner. And I think that is when I knew, like, oh, I think I like Lamar.
I think because my mom was a strong woman and I lost her so early in my life, I think subconsciously I look for stronger women. And Sabrina's one of the strongest people I've ever met in my life. So love was in the air. A couple of months went by. And I was living like she was my girlfriend, but not ready to claim her as my girlfriend. That's selfish, you know what I'm saying? I was like, let me let her know how I feel about her.
So Lamar took me for a long weekend in Miami. It was just him and I in the hotel room.
I was out all afternoon, and she asked, where was you at? I said, I went to the mall. I wanted to go get some things. She said, oh, you got me something. I'm like, No.
Then he pulled out this little black velvet box, and I was like, no. And then he opened it. Literally, that's how dramatic I was. And I said, yes.
I'm glad I met you because when I'm weak, you're strong.
Thank you. I'm glad I met you because you have truly shifted my life.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
The day that I heard about Kobe's helicopter crash, it felt like when you get the wind knocked out of you, it was just so sudden.
I could just tell he just was very emotional. I was concerned about how he was going to respond to this.
I just didn't even know how or what to feel at that time.
I was really afraid if I left Lamar alone that he was going to relapse.
The helicopter flight that ended in tragedy for 9 people, including Kobe Bryant.
The helicopter banked left and abruptly descended.
This was a high-energy impact.
Federal investigators are looking at new clues about the final moments of the
The
helicopter.
day that I heard about Kobe's helicopter crash, it felt like you get the wind knocked out of you. I think that's what kind of like happened to me. I just didn't even know how or what to feel at that time.
I could just tell he just was very emotional.
Like even, I remember like weeks after, I'm still texting him. I got to grow with him and learn from him and have some of that stardust rub off on me. Just to build a friendship with someone so special is special to me.
I had never experienced Lamar dealing with trauma like that, and it was just tough to get through. I was really afraid if I left Lamar alone that he was gonna relapse.
She was very scared for Lamar, and she made sure that she stayed very close and near to him.
I was just every 5 minutes like, you okay? If he was going out the house, where you going? You know, just very cautious because I was concerned about how he was gonna respond to this.
If I wasn't with Sabrina, there's no doubt in my mind I would have got high.
Sabrina gave him the support to help him through this very difficult and dark time.
When you got somebody as strong as her, you know, it makes you stronger. Like, I mean, with Sabrina in my life, I feel like I can really get through anything.
Lamar's in this comeback season of his life, and I think he's just with the best person he could possibly be with because she's naturally a coach. She's naturally the person that's gonna say, you can overcome, and she knows it to her core because she's had to do it a million times over. And so they're right what each other needs in this season of their life.
Sabrina and Lamar are extremely blessed to have each other in their lives. Both of them have had difficult times, so they want to look forward to the good times.
Sabrina needs someone in her life that's humble and easygoing. They complement each other because they keep each other balanced.
Once we get married, I want us to start a business together, a digital marketing company, and have content, create our own content and have other people's content, and really keep building my brand of health and fitness. In addition to that, having more children. What about you, Lamar?
I'm just insane. I'm gonna follow your lead with that.
Hello, everyone looks so beautiful. I just wanted to thank everyone for joining Lamar and I as we officially celebrate being engaged. I am so looking forward to being Mrs. Parr Odom. My grandmother is here.
Yes,
My grandmother
Yes, Granny.
helped raise me. Yes, Grammy, I love you.
I I just think having strong family is so important. You know, my mom and I did not have the best relationship growing up, rightfully so. But she's such a good grandmother. She's really dedicated to being in the kids' life.
Forgiveness is a process. A lot of things that I do now for my grandkids, as far as I teach a lot of principles and values, which I didn't teach to my children. I couldn't teach what I didn't know. But now that I know, I teach it to my grandkids. And I guess maybe that's what makes it great.
Everything happens for a reason. I just want to get better and just be the best me. And I know that Sabrina can help me get there.
Sabrina is adaptable, intelligent. She is a good mother, and she's just a good person.
Sabrina's the definition of a true overcome her. She's a female who has made changes in her life to be better, to grow, to heal, to learn. And I think she will exude that in her entire life.
She is smart, beautiful, intelligent, trustworthy, loyal, hardworking. Did I say beautiful? And she's headed for greatness.
I'm excited to give you an update about our own YouTube channel. Now you can find new videos every day. They're the kind of videos that will make you look at life differently. They may even make you laugh a little bit. Subscribe to the OWN channel today, and we'll see you on YouTube.